So here are the week NFL team. Here it is. So we have New England at Tampa Bay with Jim Nantz tournament. Most of the country is going to see that. Jacksonville and Houston is going to be in Texas, except for the Wichita Falls, Houston area. A little bit of the area, like normally in Louisiana, it normally gets like it's kind of a split between Texas and Houston and India and Louisiana. It does get like Louisiana more, but they're going to Texas because of that. It's Jacksonville, Tallahassee, Orlando, Florida areas. And they go in a little bit of Georgia with Savannah, Georgia. They have like extended team market. I guess you'd say. Jacksonville goes into a little bit of Florida or Georgia as it is. And then they go to Savannah, Georgia. Then no. Why you get swing at Tampa Bay because of San Francisco, LA do. And then Seattle usually last goes over Seattle showing and it's Seattle. Buffalo, Miami. Remember Cameron Charles Davis? He's McCree. There's a little bit in my there's a little bit in Miami. Support Miami, not from Beach, Miami. That's the just the smallest team market you can, or Sunday team market area that pretty much you can have for Miami area, which no surprise there. You have Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, Albany, New York. And that's no surprise there. It's all New York. It's Burlington, Vermont gets doing it Tampa Bay. Which is no surprise. And they go to a little bit of Pennsylvania. And then we have, and then there's a little bit of Wyoming. It's the game. Vermont. And then a tiny little bit of North Nebraska. It must be that someone from Buffalo. Like, oh, Josh Allen. That's why. He did play for the Wyoming Cowboys football team in college. So that could be for that. And then we have Cleveland and Jets from these Emirates, and it's all of Ohio, and the New York City area, and New Jersey areas. Pretty much the bare minimum for the New York Jets games. Just New York City and New Jersey. A little bit more. Maybe go to a tiny little bit of Connecticut. That's the New York station. And yeah. A little bit of Pennsylvania gets to New York station. That's it. Next year. Maybe just a little bit further out. And then Cleveland you can see. A little bit of Minneapolis and Kentucky. That gets to Cincinnati, Ohio station. And it goes on a little bit of Pennsylvania for the Cleveland. That gets to Cleveland station. A little bit of West Virginia that gets to Ohio station that's showing the game. Not all of Ohio is showing the game though. And you have Toledo, Ohio. A little bit goes into Michigan. Just a tiny little area in Michigan that gets to Ohio station. The Fort Wayne, Ohio area. Fort Wayne area in Minneapolis. They're on the border of Indiana, so they get an Ohio station. So it gets an Ohio station. Or go heard of Ohio. And they're not showing that game. The feature game. Not a late window game. I don't know what's Seattle. They have all Idaho pretty much. A little bit of Montana. A little bit of Wyoming. A little bit of northern part of California. And then you have Oregon. All Oregon. There's Idaho. Washington. And you got all of Arizona except for a little part that gets a Mexico station. And then I go to the tiny little tab Las Vegas that gets an Arizona station. Not the Las Vegas area. It ends at right Las Vegas area. And then a little bit of California gets Las Vegas station, or like Duo station maybe. It's some of like goes into like Arizona and goes into California. Either or, it's kind of a lot. Yeah, I see it more side with like the Arizona station, more with California station, because it's a California station, but yeah. And then yeah, it's um the simulcast areas have to get the scheme Seattle at Arizona at Seattle the simulcast areas for some a few simulcasters have to get this game. If your team is playing in the early window on CBS or the early window on Fox, excuse me. If your team is playing the early window on Fox, you have to get a game on CBS in the late window. But it's not the Sunday T-mark area that has to get the late window game. It's just the immediate simulcast area. Like when they simulcast for Sunday Night Football or simulcast for like the games, like they simulcast for Thursday Night Football, the NFL games in like international games, the NFL international games they simulcast for. A few Monday nights they do simulcast for when there's 2 Monday nights on ABC and now one on ESPN, or there's so that's what they have to do, because there's 2 games Monday nights at the same time. There's back-to-back Monday nights. One's on ABC and ESPN, and one's just on ESPN. The simulcast area for that, those the ESPN only Monday night games, and then the Saturday games if there's any with them. The NFL Network has any Saturday games, so yeah, simulcast area. So it's kind of which I don't like that because I've never seen Tampa Bay. And everywhere I have to in Minneapolis, Minnesota team. Kind of a shame, but sometimes you actually get a good game, and they would know sometimes not so much like the Indianapolis and less in the Chargers game. That was a good game. That's a good game. But New England Tampa Bay, not so much. I mean, New England Tampa Bay is a good game, but Arizona, yeah, Arizona, just they play sucky else. Then you have the Baton Rouge, New Orleans area, the Charlotte, North Carolina team market area, the Chicago, Illinois team market, and the Minneapolis, Minnesota, and then it goes to extend a little bit farther out. But not all of the Sunday team market area for like the Chicago Bears, the New Orleans Saints, the Carolina Panthers, not all of it. And then in the early window, we have New York Giants at Chicago is the featured game with Joe Davis and Greg Olsen. Most of the country is seeing that, and so is Alaska. Alaska's going to show that game, and Alaska is actually showing. Well, excuse me, Hawaii is showing New York Giants at Chicago because they always go with like LA or San Francisco on those two. Usually LA though, and because it's the West Coast of the West Coast affiliate for Fox. They have an East Coast and West Coast affiliate. The East Coast affiliate is always New York City, and the West Coast affiliate, the main West Coast affiliate, is always Los Angeles. And they have it on like DirecTV and the East Coast, West Coast feeds of the stations, or like Fox, NBC, CBS, all them. They usually go with like the New York City one for the East Coast, and then LA for the West Coast Pacific one, Western feed. And then Alaska's getting the Baltimore Minnesota game. And then Baltimore Minnesota, it's going out in the Sunday team market area a little bit, farther, which is North South Dakota. And then you got Minnesota, which is fair, which is not surprising. And some of Wisconsin gets Minnesota station. That's no surprise there. And that goes actually a little bit farther. Not all of Wisconsin goes a little bit upper Michigan, Wisconsin, more stand out in the central Wisconsin area. Then you have Montana, most of Montana, a little bit of Wyoming though. It goes into a little bit of I believe it might end at the goes in a little bit of what Idaho, but most likely it looks like it ends at the border, the Idaho border. And it goes a little bit of Wyoming, most of Montana. Then it goes into Omaha, Nebraska, or Nebraska, most of Nebraska, a little bit of Kansas. Not all of Nebraska, but most of Nebraska. A little bit of Kansas gets a Nebraska station. Most of Iowa, except for the Cedar Rapids, Iowa area. There's a little bit of Kansas or Missouri that gets an Iowa station. Then it's for the. It doesn't get the full NFC North viewing area. Chicago Bears. I'll actually take that like Green Bay and Mass and Milwaukee area, which I'm not surprised because Chicago. Bears are popular in like Mass and Milwaukee. I could see that. And then you have Green Bay area, and then most of the northern Michigan. And you have the Michigan pretty much. And Toledo, however, they're starting with the Michigan, the featured game in this one. Then we have Baltimore, Minnesota. Like I said, we have most of Ohio, Kentucky. You have Kentucky, and a little bit of Indianapolis. I guess I believe it was Kentucky station. Then you have the Virginia area. You have the Pittsburgh area and the Harrisburg area. You don't get the Philadelphia area and the Scranton Wilkes-Barre area. That's because that's Philadelphia Eagles area, fan base area. You have for West Virginia, Maryland, Washington D.C., and Virginia. A little bit, most of Virginia, and a little bit of North Carolina that gets to like Norfolk, Virginia station. There's a little bit of, and then North Carolina is just Louisiana, most of Arkansas, except for a little area, or most of Mississippi. My bad, most of Mississippi, except for the little area that gets like a Memphis, Tennessee station in Mississippi, and then a little bit of Arkansas gets like Mississippi station or like a Shreveport, Louisiana station, and it goes a little bit of Texas. It gets like a border stations. They're part of Louisiana. You know, like extended Texas. So, and then we have a little bit of Oklahoma in there. It gets to Shreveport, Louisiana, Texas, and it goes into like this is like the fourth state. Then it goes into Mobile, Alabama, area in Panama City, Florida. Then we have most of North Carolina. So there's a tiny tad that gets not North Carolina station. And then there's a little bit of like that's Norfolk, Virginia station, and a little bit of just a tiny little tad that gets North Carolina, few areas that get just tiny little few areas. In Virginia, they get North Carolina station. And then most of South Carolina, and except all the South Carolina stations are shown that game. And then a little bit of Greenville, South area. They get a station in Georgia, in a little bit of Georgia goes in that station. Then Augusta, Savannah, Georgia. They're showing the Atlanta. They're showing Northern Giants, Chicago. That goes into South Carolina, and then they have to reach those stations goes into South Carolina, Augusta, Savannah, Georgia. So then we have the Fox late window, which most of the country's going to see. LA, San Francisco, Kevin Burkhardt, Sunbury, in Alaska, and Hawaii are both going to show that game. And we have the Detroit and Washington with Gilbert, Jonathan Zoma. It's the NFC North viewing area is going to see that. So you have all of Minnesota, all of Wisconsin, all of Michigan, and then you have South Dakota. It goes in a little bit of Wyoming, Montana, a little bit of Nebraska, then a little bit of Iowa. Not all Iowa, but a little bit of Iowa. You have most of Illinois, except for the area like St. Louis, Missouri, Cape Girardeau, Missouri, areas that get like a Missouri station normally instead of but they live in like Illinois, but they get like an Illinois, but they get a Missouri station as like their main Fox affiliate, like St. Louis, Cape Girardeau. You know, they're kind of in the St. Louis metro area, but they live in Illinois. Cape Girardeau metro area, but they live in Illinois. They'll get San Francisco. Then you have the Washington Commanders fan base area, which is Maryland. So it always goes they kind of interchange with Baltimore Ravens. Washington Commanders kind of in like Virginia, like DC, Maryland, Virginia, and that goes North Carolina gets Detroit, Washington too. And then they're showing that game kind of most of Kentucky, West Virginia, and then they're showing it in the they're showing us in the AFC North area as well. Like they're showing us in Indiana. They're showing us in Ohio, all Ohio. And they're showing us in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Harrisburg, Buffalo, New York. So I'm kind of surprised by. I'm not. It's like the Baltimore Ravens. You know. I'm kind of surprised with it. I know they do that. They have done that before, which is kind of strange. I don't know. You know why? They're in Indianapolis, and not in Ohio. Maybe it's Toledo, Ohio area, sure. Or the South Bend area, sure. That might get a little bit of Ohio, or might get a little bit of Indianapolis and Michigan combined. Sure, okay. That's Ohio. Then, why is Kentucky? Why is Indiana for the most part? Why is Ohio? Why is Pennsylvania? Pittsburgh? Maybe the Harrisburg area for Baltimore. Maybe I could see that. Maybe a little bit. Maybe I could see the DC and Virginia areas, in the Baltimore, Maryland area. Sure. Maybe I could see some of West Virginia. I could see that, but Kentucky, North Carolina, like, huh? So yeah, that's the week 11 or week 10 NFL TV map for the 2025 season. So there you have it. So until next time, take care.